Hey everyone, welcome to Gaming in the Keats. I am your host Chris, and I'm bringing you today a friendly battle report between me and my good friend Vamps in Maryland. As you might have guessed, or read the title, either one, the Dread Elves are back, yes! So I've been playing, I first started with Dark Elves when I entered into the Warhammer fantasy scene, and so they've been my army since 2013, 2014, I don't know, one of those years. I went on a nice little hiatus because, quite frankly, I wasn't having fun with the army, and so for an entire year I switched over to Daemons, and now I am coming back home. So here we have it, and I am up against some vampire counts today. Going over my list, I decided today to just bring some models that I haven't played on the tabletop in for years, and I'm so excited. And I'm bringing some weird stuff too. So for example, starting with the list, I have a Warlock Outcast on a Manticore, Master of Cosmology with paired weapons, Hero's Heart, and then Destiny's Call and the Balance Spell, Siren Scale, that item. So this unit is rather rare, from my experience. You normally don't see the Outcasts on Manticore, however they do pop up every once in a while, and I think they are interesting. I know a player used it in the U.S. Championships, so and did pretty well from what I saw. So I'm trying out my Manticore model. She's there, she's ready to rock and or roll. We now have a Dread Prince. He is the general. I'm going with a 2-up, 4-up save with Death Cheater and a great weapon. So 1-up save with the shield from ranged attacks, and then a 2-up in close combat. He's, MR2 and has a great weapon with Cleansing Light, so he's there to just be a beat stick. Then we have an Exarch BSB, and I'm trying out Essence of the Free Mind, so to give me the option between Alchemy and Divination, and then I need Book of Arcane Mastery, just because I want those 2 extra spells. And then an Aether icon for fun. And then we have a Silent Assassin. She's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I made this model specifically for James, my opponent, and this model has notoriously punked his vampires. And so hopefully she can do that today. And then we go into 28 Spears with the Executioner's icon, 21 Militants. I haven't used Militants since version 1.3, so I'm eager to try them out with a Flaming Standard, so hopefully they can pair well with the Exarch. 15 Auxiliaries for fun, or some shooting, I guess. 29 Judicators with Cadrian's Penance, so they can have the Scent of Blood rule, and have Swift Stride, so that's fun. A Raptor Chariot with Halberd, 2 Hunting Chariots, 5 Shadow Riders with Repeater Crossbows, and a Mist Leviathan, because, yeah. So I tried to make it like more of an all-rounder list with a bit of shooting, decent magic phase, and then the Mist Leviathan is there to protect the infantry from potential shooting attacks, and also just be a chaff, because that's essentially what they do for me. So let's go into my opponent's list. Going over my opponent's list today, he's running a fairly usual tournament build for his vampires today. I have played against this list in various iterations, and it has kicked my butt in many of those times. But let's see how I get on today. So he's got the big zombie dragon. However, this is actually one of the cheaper iterations of a zombie dragon. I really like this build because it has Cursed Medallion, so he can just pick a model on the table, surprise, it's going to be my Dread Prince, and just get rerolls to hit and wound against it. So it actually makes this vampire rather killy. He is a lich, so he does get the hereditary just for in addition to his occultism spell, and since he's a general, he gets Dead Arise. So, and then this guy is also rocking a halberd with cleansing light. We have 2 courtiers, one of Evo, they're both of Evo. One has the Crown of Autocracy to give a nice little march bubble. And that one is the Supreme Lich, so Wizard Master there. And then we got another Vampire Courtier with the Hypnotic Pendant, and Strigoi Unbreakable Will. So when that vampire goes into the ghoul unit, that ghoul unit becomes stubborn, so gross. 25 skeletons with the Legion Standard, 24 zombies, 2x8 dire wolves for chaff, a Court of the Damned that goes in the skeletons and gives that nice little agility debuff bubble. He's got 9 wraiths with the champion, so 2 extra spells there, and does have the double movement in this list. So Raven's Wing on the Wraiths, and then he'll take Dance Macabre on the Courtier Supreme Lich. We got a Shrieking Horror, and then 3 Vampire Knights to round it out for scoring purposes. The pre-game settings as follows. We have Frontline Clash, Spoils of War, so we have to do the 3 objectives here in the middle. Middle, and then left, and then right side, off to the side of this picture. And then we're on map A4, so we have an impassable, and we're looking at it from my perspective. So I won the side to choose, and then my opponent, of course, dropped for first. So I chose the side with the hill, so we've got an impassable, hill, forest, another impassable, wall in the center, a field, and then a water terrain feature. Oops, looks like we didn't quite correctly put that water terrain feature. Oh well. But yeah, so that are the settings. Those are the settings. What is English? I don't know. For magic, I took I took Truth and Time, Ice and Fire, Perception of Strength, and Touch the Heart, plus the Bound Spectral Blades on the Manticore, or the Manticast. But, yeah, let's see. I wanted to do Touch the Heart so I could heal up the Prince, and then I also wanted Truth of Time, because I know my opponent has that debuff agility bubble with the Core of the Damned, and so with Divination I wanted to ensure that if I'm going to be pushing, and if I'm going to be getting a charge off, that I will have 2 agility spells, because unlike the Obsidian Guard, the Adjudicators are only agility 5. And so when it comes to ghouls, the ghouls will... I don't want the ghouls hitting simultaneously or potentially going first. So yeah, that was my reasoning there. And then with the Exarch I have Know Thy Enemy because I have to. And then I also took Fate's Judgment because I really want to deal with the Wraiths and the Shrieking Horror. For my opponent's spells, he has the Arise, the Breath of Corruption, and the Hereditary on the Dragon. He has the Hereditary, because the Liches and the Supreme Liches, I think, get the Hereditary for free anyway, in Vampires. So, he took both Snipe spells on the Evo Master. He took Dance Macabre, and I think he also took Whispers of the Veil. If he wasn't allowed to do that, I can't remember. Anyway, we never played Whispers, so he either had 4 or 5 spells. I can't remember. The Strigoi Vamp had the Hereditary, and the Wraiths took Raven's Wing and Deceptive Glamour, again to lower my agility, to counterbalance my 2 agility spells. Alright, pre-game thoughts coming in on the macro side of things. I know that my range damage spells, I think, are a bit more of an issue for some of his units. So, for example, Ice and Fire and Fate's Judgment are really good at killing those Wraiths and the Shrieking Horror, so he can't be as aggressive with them as he'd like. I know that I'm just going to decide to let my opponent come to me at this rate, because he can't spread out too much, or at least that's not usually how he plays this list. So my goal is to essentially zone the middle with the Judicators, with the Cadron's Pennon, from that hill perspective, and then have the basically just try and secure one side with the militants, and then have all my ranged and single models try and zone my opponent's objective, the one that they are going to try and go for. I think I ultimately zoned the objective better than his list. However, going into the micro side of things, I do have to be conscious of the double move with the race and the shrieking horror. So, he can throw up a piece of a piece of chaff in front of me, and then move the shrieking horror to just shriek off whatever he needs to, or do the wraith sweeping attack. And so making sure I'm staying outside of 24 inches of the wraiths, and I think the number for the shrieking horror is 26.5, given like the massive base size or the turn. It's either 26.5 inches or 27.5. I know I had it in my head, but I can't remember now. It is an interesting matchup for the Dread Prince against his dragon. Normally, I'd want the Dread Prince to take out that dragon, but because he has Cursed Medallion, it makes it much more difficult. And so what's important to note is that the Cursed Medallion makes it so that that dragon has rerolls to wound against all attacks, right? So that includes a Breath of Corruption if he gets it off on the Prince. So, yeah, that sucks. And then, of course, my opponent's snipes are an issue because the Exarch doesn't have any protection from snipes, only has the 4-up Aegis in close combat. So, although overall I would rate this match, even though I think it's kind of unstable, I do think it's a positive matchup. So, let's see if I predicted correctly. So, for my opponent's turn 1, he moves up as you see. So let's go over the units. So from my left to right on my side, I have the regular Raptor Chariot. We've got some auxiliaries. We have 2 hunting chariots. Apologies for the gray models, but I'm borrowing them from a friend of mine, and I wanted to try them out to see how much I actually like hunting chariots, because I've never used them before. We have the big unit of spears with the BSB in there. So Morathi, my courtesan of Sibresh, is standing in for my chariot prince today. Plus, I also just wanted to use the model, because right now she's my favorite model, and the most recent that I've hobbied and painted up, so I want to use her. We then have the Manticore. That's a Raging Heroes Manticore. And so we have the Manticore on Cosmo. We have the 29 Judicators. We have the Mist Leviathan right here, my Shadow Riders vanguarding up at this rate, and the Blades, Militants. Shows you how long ago I've played Dread Elves. Or these units at least. So, from my opponent's left to right, he has the Dogs, the Shrieking Horror, the 3 Vampire Knights. You can see the Wraiths right behind his dragon. Then you have zombies, you have the Skeletons with the Core of the Damned, and the Supreme Lich in here. And then you have the Strigoi Vampire and the Ghouls. And then he moved his Dogs right outside of line of sight from my vanguarding units. I knew that, and so as you see this turn 1, he pushes the Dogs up to block out my chariots and the repeaters. I'm fine with that. That's okay. As expected. My opponent just sidesteps the Dogs because they can't march. They're outside of the leadership bubble of the dragon, so he just sidesteps out of my line of sight. I could have probably prevented this, but at the same time, I really wanted to angle the Dark Raiders in a way to prevent him, because he was inside of his general's leadership before he vanguarded. I wanted to prevent him from coming up to just blocking up the Judicators too. So, yeah, that was my intention there. Or, like, I mean, yeah, they still could have done that, but then I would have had a nice, I could have just countercharged here and then be somewhere in here. And if he charges me, if, you know, yeah. Anyway, that's what I was thinking at the time. I'm looking back at this now. I'm like, I probably should have just prevented this. But that's how you see it. In the magic phase, I let go a hasten the hour on the BSB, so I take a wound. I stop Touch of the Reaper, and then my opponent is able to get a Breath of Corruption on the dragon and pop 3 spears. Alright, in my turn 1, I charge the wolves with the chariot. The repeaters don't move. Because now I'm bringing both my hunting chariots on the Shrieking Horror, so I'm just like, alright, it's go time. Shrieking Horror is the priority target, so I need to take it out. So that's what I do. I fly over the Manticast to get in range of the Shrieking Horror for an Ice and Fire, and then I also reform and face the BSB to get a Fate's Judgment off on the Shrieking Horror as well, and then I also do it in a way so that the dragon cannot see the spear unit. I have the Chariot Prince covering the space in case the dragon wants to land and threaten any of my units here. The Judicators turn ever so slightly, but we do get our center up onto the hill, and so now I'm beginning to zone this center objective. The Miss Leviathan's kind of chilling right beside, ready for any sort of counter charges that come into the center, or to just block and get in the way if need be. And the militants move up so that I'm not on the objective yet, and then I just kind of hope that I pass a frenzied. I probably could have, either way, I probably could have done it. I think I'm out of the frenzy range here, but then my opponent does move in a way to put me in frenzy range. I maybe could have been a bit more patient with this objective, but I also wanted to start pushing up quickly so I could come around this flank. I do know that if I fail the frenzy check, then it forces me to make a decision on, do I go back and grab the objective, or I just pressure the flank, and then maybe try and go for the center this time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. In Magic, my opponent stops Fate's Judgment on the Shrieking Horror. I think I failed Touch the Heart. No, excuse me. Yeah, I can't remember. I might have failed Touch the Heart to heal up that wound on the BSB. But then I do get an Ice and Fire off on the Shrieking Horror, and I do 2 wounds to it. And pew. The repeater auxiliaries take out the Shrieking Horror. So awesome. I spiked on dice. I rolled really well. I rolled the 4 6s I needed to get those last wounds off, and James unfortunately did not make any fortitude saves. So the hunting chariots didn't even get to shoot. And I think this hunting chariot is right outside of 18 of the Vampire Knights. So I think if I was to do this in a different order, I start with these 2 hunting chariots first, and then work my way around to the auxiliaries if the Shrieking Horror is still alive. And as you can see, the chariot made quick work of the direwolves. Alright, VC turn 2. So, acknowledging the potential mistake that my opponent made, he's like, okay, I need to regroup. So he backs up the knights. He brings the race forward right behind this impassable terrain. And he does it in a way so he's getting the hard cover from the terrain, as well as I can't actually make or connect any charges because I'm all in the front arc here. And the Judicators are out of range, so I can't get into them yet, unless I get a scent of blood off or something, or do a wound to them. So well placed there. He brings the dragon back, and and he pushes the ghouls back, actually, because, let's see, oh yes, because the previous turn, some of the, speaking of Pew Pew, the Shadow Riders took off one of the ghouls, so now that activates the scent of blood on them, which is really, really helpful. So, yes. I think magic, boy. What happened in magic? I don't know. I just don't know. I think yes. Nothing really important happened because there's no real good place to Raven's Wing, or Dance Macabre. I think my opponent was out of range of Hasten the Hour here, so I just stopped Touch the Reaper on the Prince. And yeah, that was basically it. Oh, excuse me, no, my opponent did grow back some skeletons, and then I stopped Touch the Reaper. There we have it. It's all coming back to me now. Okay, my turn 2. I pass my frenzy check. Whew. Maximized 8. I passed the frenzy check, so now I just angle so I can be on the objective and charge past this impassable here. The prince is not actually here. The prince is there on top of the hill, where you see it, where the base is. I just have the model magnetized because the wings were bumping into the other models. The Manticore, see, this is where I think I made a bit of a micro mistake here, and I'm kind of messing up this left side because I have all these different units. I actually pulled back my chariots so that if he gets a Raven's Wing or a Dance Macabre, or like I was afraid of getting the Dance and then a Raven's Wing, and plus he can move 12 here, so I think I messed this up, but what my intention here was, if he's able to go here, I stop one of the movement spells, and then hopefully I can just bring all my shooting and charge the Wraiths once they come into this zone. But that he was also able, I did pre-measure it, and so I pulled the chariot, that raptor chariot, outside of 24 inches because I didn't want to panic. You know, if one of these chariots die, it creates this big panic check here, and I just, ugh. So I know that he can probably get this chariot, so I didn't really accomplish what I set out to do. So I think that, you know, lesson learned there. I can probably do that a bit better for next time. But it just shows you how powerful this unit can be. Like this 480 point unit is just making all of my units be like having to pre-measure and just be like, okay, where can this unit go if it gets X, Y, or Z movement spell off? And it's just very difficult to play against. And then speaking of which, the Manticore is actually facing out this way to countercharge if the unit does come into this space here. However, I realized I also made a mistake in that I didn't really set myself up to try and use magic missiles for them with the Manticore. This was kind of a pointless move, in my opinion. I really should have just pushed her out over here so she could see the unit. And now the chariot's blocking her anyway, because I'm on top of the hill. Actually, she's tall. She is no, this is not the Towering Presence Manticore, so indeed, I have blocked myself in case he wants to go into this area. So, not great micro on this turn here. But so for magic, I get off a Truth in Time onto the Judicators, and my opponent stops Touch the Heart to try and heal off a wound on the BSB, but not too much to report home there. I think shooting, I think I do pick off one Wraith from the repeaters, because some of them can see right out here, but that's it for now. So VC turn 3. Yes, so my opponent does as follows. Pushes back the ghouls, moves up the skeletons to be within 18 inches of the BSB and or the chariot. He doesn't need the range on the chariot, but he doesn't need it for the BSB to pick her out of the unit. The dragon is as you see here, so this, I think this charge is impossible from the Judicators into the dragon. The chariot I think is also impossible. I'm not sure, but I don't think my opponent was giving me charges here. He leaves the wraiths where they are at the moment, and then I stop Breath of Corruption in my opponent's magic phase, and I believe I also stop the... Yes, I stopped the movement spell on the wraiths, but my opponent does get off a breath... No, I didn't stop Breath of Corruption. I stopped, I stopped Hasten the Hour. I stopped one of the snipes. One or both of the snipes. I can't remember. But my opponent does get off a Breath of Corruption onto the chariot. And yeah. Let's see if the chariot survives. And yes, I do. I survive. I take 2 wounds from Breath of Corruption. I make my fortitude saves. Thank goodness. Oh my god. But I do have 2 wounds on the chariot now, so I don't think the chariot is going to charge into anything anytime soon. Or at least I don't plan on doing it. So let's go into my turn 3 here. Alright, my turn 3. So at this rate I realized the wraiths are basically within 24 of everything here. So I pull back the chariot outside of 24 here. This chariot's outside. However, these 3 units, the spears, this chariot, and the auxiliaries are within 24 inches, so it is possible to do that sweeping move. I'm doing my best, but I don't think I think I need to really work on how to avoid this effectively here. So yes, as you can see, the picture's a bit resolved, but I charge the dogs, get rid of them. The Mist Leviathan is a bit awkward because I wanted to come around over and start threatening the flank as well with the ghouls. However, I didn't want to block my reform with the militants, so this is where the Mist Leviathan ended up. To be honest, I think the Mist Leviathan really just should have chilled next to the Judicators, because then it's a lot easier for me to just push the Mist Leviathan as a piece of chaff and then put the Judicators onto the objective to grab it, to really ensure that even if my opponent is able to get this single Spoils of War, I'll have 2 and can't push me off of it. So I think this is a misplay here. Let's see. I get a Truth in Time off on the chariot, so I heal a wound. I get Touch the Heart on the chariot, I heal a wound. I get Truth in Time off on the Judicators to make their threat range massive. And then I do decide to pop my assassin into the auxiliaries because I'm seeing what I'm concerned about is the vampire knights coming and grabbing the objective, and I want the assassin to try and maybe deter my opponent, and it's a little bit more pew-pew in that unit. Again, not sure if that was the right play. Maybe the Judicators was the best spot, but that's where I did it. My opponent stops Ice and Fire onto the wraiths from the Manticore here, and then I think shooting. This is where I kill a wraith. So, yep, that's where you have it. Well, I guess I was actually wrong. So, so my opponent's turn 4. This is actually after the magic phase as well, or at least part of the magic phase here. My opponent turns to face the Judicators with the skeletons, and then to countercharge with the dragon in case I choose to go in, backing up the ghouls. And also take note, with the sacrifice, the zombies now have lost health points. So the zombies actually activate the Judicator's Scent of Blood as well. But as you can see, my opponent popped over the impassable. I failed to stop Dance Macabre. And so when I say I was wrong, that other chariot was in fact within 24 inches yeah, because I think there was just no way I could have prevented that whole situation aside from just stopping the movement spell. So yes, my opponent does that. Because I failed to dispel, my opponent just diced me. He kills a chariot. Luckily, I pass all my panics here, thank goodness. But it also means the failing to dispel got the Breath of Corruption onto the zombie dragon again, and I lose. So this is 8, but I actually lost 7 Judicators. That dice marks the one guy who's still supposed to be there. Yeah, I lost 7 Judicators to the Breath of Corruption. Oh my god, I hate occultism sometimes. It's so good against elves. It really is. Like, ugh. And then, of course, the dance, Dance of Macabre. He's disco dancing and killing my chariot at the same time. Not cool. Yeah. So, but again, past my panics. Yay. Okay, my turn 4. So, what my opponent did here was really smart. He put the wraiths in a way so that the chariot could not charge past the spears in the previous turn for a counter charge, and neither could the manticore. So that was frustrating. So instead, this is what I do. I have to back up the chariot prince again outside of 12 inches. So yes, he can sweep the chariot prince if he's still alive, but he does have to do a Dance Macabre a Raven's Wing onto the unit. So at least gives me a spell to stop. So I'm forcing his hand there. I move up as you see fit, and check this out. I charge the Shadow Riders into the flank of the ghouls. Normally, I don't think this is a great idea, charging Shadow Riders into ghouls, but I kind of did the math, and they don't really kill me. I'll do a few bit of damage, and then it's essentially like this is how I'm getting value for my chaff here, is just by holding the unit up for a turn to allow the militants to move up and actually get into a good charge range and counter the ghouls as well. So yeah, and then as you see here, I move the manticore on top of the hill so I can ice and fire the wraiths, and everything basically turns to just deal with this unit. This is a really frustrating unit here. So the spears turn to face, so I can Fate's Judgment the wraiths, the chariots, or the one chariot, and the repeaters and the assassin all come within 12 here, so I can just just all my ranged will be focused onto this unit. If I can kill this unit, I'll be breathing a sigh of relief. Yes, I see that I am potentially giving a flank to the Vampire Knights, but I actually think it's right outside of 19 inches here. So I think I'm good here. And my assassin is right there. Buffy, she's chilling right there in the unit anyway. So, yeah, so surprise. My opponent stops Fate's Judgment. I get off an Ice and Fire, and I kill one Wraith. And then all of my shooting does absolutely nothing. So I'm like, fuck, oh no, here we go. And this is one of those funny moments where, I rolled really well to hit with all my shots, and then the chariot rolls like snake eyes to wound, and then out of, I think, like around 13 hits with this unit, including, and then the assassin as well, so that like a total of 15 hits came through, I rolled 1-4 to wound, and it was like, this is one of those dice roll moments where just both my opponent just burst out laughing like, what just happened? So I just don't think I actually killed a unit math-wise, even with, say, like if we just rolled averaged here, but it would certainly deplete their efficacy in terms of their sweeping attack. But now I have 7 more wraiths to deal with, so that's 7 strength 5 sweeping attacks at AP 10. exactly what I said happens here. So Shadow Riders kill some ghouls. I lose 1 in return, but everyone sticks around. And most importantly, because my opponent was outside of his general's leadership, my opponent fails the reform test. So that is big. Alright, my opponent's turn 5. This is where my opponent starts making the move for his objective. He puts the Vampire Knights on top. I see what he's planning on doing here. So, he's going to essentially try and Ravenswing the Wraith, sweep over the auxiliaries, and then chaff my chariot. So I just need to stop that spell, essentially. Yeah, and then the dragon is also outside of 12, so that's the 12-inch ruler there. So in case that fails, my opponent will be able to raise some zombies to block the chariot from charging. So yeah, this is when my opponent makes the move, and then you can see here the zombies back up, the skeletons turn to face, and the ghouls are just stuck. And then let's go to my opponent's magic phase, and then there you have it. I fail to stop again. I fail to stop frickin' Ravenswing. And because I failed it, that means my opponent is able to get up the skeletons anyway. So I'm like, crap. And like, again, like I had the dice advantage and everything. It's just, yup, that happens. So my opponent kills 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, my opponent wounded all with every attack. So I lose 7 auxiliaries. And then again, luckily, they passed their panic because I had made a bit of a mistake here. The auxiliaries are outside of BSB range. So they made a once 9 leadership check. And then, yes, so we're not confused here. So the assassin rule is not a leader, which only specifically states cannot be your general. However, it does not, from my understanding of it, it does not stop you from actually using that model's discipline as when you're making the leadership check in the unit that it's in. So if we played it wrong, let us know. But that's how both my opponent and I understood the rule. So, but either way, they make their break check, and now I've got a lot of problems. Close combat. So this was also pretty big. Again, I lose 2 more Shadow Riders, but I get away, and my opponent, again, fails the discipline check to restrain and has to pursue, which gives the Temple Militants just a juicy flank charge. So, oh yeah, I am taking that charge. So, on my turn 5, unfortunately, because of that earlier misplay with the Miss Leviathan, I pre-measured this, I don't actually have the movement to be able to put the Miss Leviathan in a way to block the skeleton unit from charging. That's why the arc is there. If I was to go and step on top of the objective with the Judicators. So that really cost me the objective there, because now I can't push my opponent off this objective here, and my opponent is able to win it back essentially to a tie. Unless I can deal with these Vampire Knights in some way. And so here's what I have to do. I charge both the rear of the race with the auxiliaries, and I charge the front with the spears. Yeah, because I mean I need to deal with this unit. I just have to. And I had to send both in, because even though the rear was an auto, this spear unit was not an auto. I needed a 7, so it's really just a 50-50 at that rate. And I do get in, thank goodness. So, like, I'm making my charges, but my dispelling attempts have not been great. And, yeah, so I do charge the skeletons as well. My opponent puts the rear of the skeletons in my face so that when I do the impact hits on the skeletons, I'm actually being dragged towards the board edge. So at that rate, I knew that was the case, so I just decided I'm going to charge in here and run off the board to potentially prevent a unit from being killed by a breath of corruption or a snipe and causing potential panics. I bring the chariot over to shoot into the knights, and now I put my manticore in a way to get within 24 inches of both the spears, and she's within 24 inches of the blades of knob. It's like this perfect little arc here. So I'm able to get a touch of the heart, and I heal the chariot prince again. I get off a chaotic perception of strength on the ghouls, so that's nice. And then my opponent stops truth and time onto the temple militants. Yeah, I actually tried to pop their strength 5 thing. Stops truth and time on the temple militants. You know, I might have... No, I have this wrong. Excuse me, everyone. I appreciate your patience. My opponent stops truth and time of the temple militants, and then what I did was I got a good perception of strength off on them. So they are, you know, they're strength 5 with their blades of Derek rule. So I'm happy about that. So they'll just be on 2s and 2s. And yeah, I'm happy with the touch of the heart as well. I like healing up the Dread Prince. Alright, in close combat, yes, I do get rid of the Wraiths, not a problem. I don't take any wounds in return. My opponent could have, if he was alive, could have actually attacked back onto the BSB, which wouldn't have been fun. But now I'm in also this awkward situation where in order for my spears to get into bus formation to receive a potential charge from the dragon or the knights, the auxiliaries kind of I had to go basically 2x4, which sucks. But the assassins up front looking sassy. And then, yeah, the chariot gets off the board. And then, as you can see here, for the temple militants, I make quick work of the ghouls. And then I do turn to face, because now that the unit actually crumbled and died, I don't need to overrun. I can just reform them. Alright, power play from my opponent on this turn. My opponent charges the auxiliary unit, and at this rate I just decided to flee. I don't know if this was the correct call. What would have you done? My concern was if he makes it in, yeah, my assassin might put like 2 wounds up on the dragon, but I was worried that he kills the assassin, breaks the unit, and then causes panic checks here. However, fleeing, I rolled exactly what I needed to get off the board, which was a 7. and so I panicked the units anyway. Luckily, again, I make my panic check. So my leadership this game has been great. Or discipline, excuse me. And then my opponent, I think, wisely decides to just fail charge it and not redirect, because I do have the chariot to countercharge. And yes, I will do it. I don't care if my cursed medallion is up. So the dragon failed charges. He grabs the objective with the knights and just backs up. And yeah, and then backs up with both the skeletons and the zombies. Oh, you know what? I think I was at this rate within charge range of the zombies. Yes. So I think my opponent did as best of a job as he could have to back up. But then going to my opponent's magic phase, the dice gods are scorning me for switching to Dread Elves from Demons. So yes, you notice my Exarch is now dead. What happened was I let go Hasten the Hour, and I say it's 6-3. So I have my 6 dice to his 3 dice to stop Touch of the Reaper. And he gets off Touch of the Reaper. I failed to dispel it with my 6 dice and kills the Exarch. Oh, crap. Damn it. And then, for more insult to injury, a breath of corruption goes off onto the adjudicators, and he kills another 6 models. So, oh god, those magic phases are brutal. But I also, that bad luck on that one. So, oh well, what are you gonna do? But well played to my opponent for target priority there. Yeah, oh well. And into my turn 6. So, I'm just, at this rate, I can't really do much. I'm wondering, when I look at this picture, I don't remember declaring a charge from the adjudicators onto the zombies. So they would have needed 18 inches. Yeah, so this, I think, at least is a mistake on my part, right? Because in order to he had to have been within 18 inches for the breath of corruption to go off. So I would have needed double 6s, but I would have had a reroll. I should have my turn 6, I should have attempted it. So that was a mistake here. I mean, needing boxcars with a reroll, at that rate, it's the end of the game. Go for it, dude. But I didn't see it. For some reason, I just didn't see it. So that's on me. But what instead I do is I pull the manticore up, I pull the chariot up, and my goal is to just try and get down the knight unit to maybe half points. Okay, yeah, I understand that my opponent has the objective, but I'm trying to get points at this rate because now I'm not happy with where it stands with the tied objective, and I want to try and increase my score here. And then magic phase, I get off a evil touch of the heart here. My opponent stops ice and fire, and the chariot rolls snake eyes again to try and shoot down this unit. So there you have it, folks. It's the end of the game. So GG, great game, James. Well played. Your turn 6 was phenomenal. So way to push it back to win to tie the objective there at the end of the game. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I was so glad to be playing the Dread Elves again. It feels good, but I also realized how stressful it is when I'm actually making panic checks all over the place. So yeah, let's see what the score ended up being. Okay, and the final score is an 11-9 victory to the Dread Elves with a tied objective. So I got 1749 victory points because I took out the 2 wolves, the ghouls, the wraiths finally, and then the shrieking horror. And then my opponent got 1365 because he was able to get my BSB, the assassin, the auxiliaries, a single hunting chariot, and my shadow riders because, surprise, they didn't rally, they ran off the board. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was fun to play with some cool new units. Also very stressful, like I said, because, oh my god, panic checks are a thing now again, after coming from playing Demons. Like, right, oh, I need to remember this. So, let's go into my post-game thoughts here. Post-game thoughts. I thought my macro plan was pretty solid. I thought I did a good job of committing to pushing the right side, securing my spoils, zoning the center, and then on the left side, keeping a lot of my ranged units there to make it difficult for those vampire knights to just move up onto the objective. I think I could have honestly done better to win the objective, though. But that goes into... so that's sort of the general plan, is you set up your army in a way to ensure that, okay, if my opponent is somehow able to get his objective, then I have at least another means of securing the center, which theoretically would have been with the adjudicators. However, when we go into the micro aspect of the game, I think I made quite a few mistakes. because I felt like I boxed myself in on the left, but that also, it's well played to my opponent there because it was really due to the wraiths having that 24-inch threat range with the movement spell. And then, yeah, I could have chosen Unity and Divergence. I think Unity and Divergence actually would have been a really great spell for this match, but I was trying out Touch the Heart for healing purposes, which was helpful. It kept the prince alive, and I also wanted Truth in Time, right? And Perception of Strength is always good. I just, it was like one of those things like, oh, which spell do I choose? But I think Unity and Divergence also threatens the race and threatens the ghouls and threatens those skeleton units. So ultimately, I think, considering that the Judicators never actually got into close combat, it's like, Unity and Divergence is probably the better pick here for how the game plan ultimately was executed. And then with those micro things failing to dispel those movement spells and the snipe spells, it cost me points. So that sucked. And then, yeah, like I said earlier, misplaying the Mist Leviathan really prevented me from moving on to the center objective in the late game. So to allow me to win the objective to make it a 14-6 instead of an 11-9. So with those micro mistakes you're seeing, it's like you're bleeding those points, and like it's a great learning experience for sure. And it's hobby time! Check it out! So these are some space elves. These are some sword masters here for James. I'm painting James's entire highborn elf army just for fun. I wanted to do it, and yeah, he wanted a space theme, so here we have it. I just wanted to showcase some of the hobbying element of the 9th Age because that's why we play this game. Because it's fun and we like to paint toy soldiers, or at least that's me. So yeah. We're going with the space theme, and then also the bases. If you notice, I don't know if you can catch the reference there. They still need some highlights, like the unit is not completely finished, but I'm going to go back at the end and highlight with some white, and I'm referencing well, you know what? Put it in the comments. If you get the reference, put it in the comments. Let me know what I'm referencing there, which TV show. Hint! Anyway. Alright, anyways, thank you so much for watching, really appreciate it, and like and subscribe if you're in between worlds here, and just loving the content. I absolutely love the support, really appreciate it, guys, and yeah, excited to be playing Dread Elves again. And then also just a shout out, I'm going to put the link below in the description, but there is a tournament at the Titans Games and Hobbies in Timonium, Maryland coming up April 28th, I believe, or that weekend. So I'll put the link for new recruit to sign up for the tournament, so all you Mid-Atlantic East Coasters, and then there's also some people coming out from the Midwest as well. Yeah, sign on up. Let's get some people going. There's 8 people so far, but let's keep the enrollment up. So that being said, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao, ciao for now, y'all.